Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Planet Tyro. We're doing another TV show discussion, and I'm here with my good bud you've seen on the previous video, Mampers. Welcome back.
Yay! It's Mampers. He's back on the airwaves. Yay! Woo!
I'm sure you're more excited than anybody else.
Yay! It's only me that's cheering. Yay!
Nah, nice to have you back, man. We had that good rapport last time. I think we spoke about BoJack Horseman. Was the last time we had you on?
Yes, it was. It was great talking about that show.
Yeah.
Loved it. But we're not talking about that now. We're talking about something else.
We're talking about something else that I had to put off for a while because there's a special reason I want you on. And it's a bit obvious if you guys have seen this gentleman in the flesh. But we're going to be talking about a show called Master of None, which is a Netflix original comedy which stars comedian Aziz Ansari. Am I pronouncing his name right?
Aziz Ansari.
Aziz Ansari.
That's what everybody's saying. So
sure, it was written, created, and he directed 2 of the episodes of it. I think it's a 12-episode series.
It's a 10-episode series, but that's fine.
No, that's 12, 10. I can't even remember. It's kind of short. I just kind of binge watched it, but it's got so much good rapport. It's got so much good feedback, and I actually wanted you on here as a discussion. And I think it might be a little bit obvious why, but if you don't mind explaining, why would it be obvious? would want you specifically on this discussion here.
So why would I be here discussing about this?
Yeah.
It's because the main character is Asian or Indian, if you want to say, and I'm also Indian. Who, if you guys haven't seen me on the videos beforehand, I'm of Indian origin. So to me, this is something good to watch from my perspective, at least.
Well, that's what I wanted, your perspective, because you're Indian, Asian.
No. Trust me, we'll be talking a lot more about it. Especially there's a couple of episodes I definitely want to talk about.
Give us a synopsis now. Now that people know why I asked you one. What is it about for those who's listening who've never heard of this show? Which is, to be honest with you, it's pretty popular. But just in case they don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So as I said, it's about a guy called Dev Shah, who is a jobbing actor. Who, he lives in New York. He's a jobbing actor. The only thing that he's famous for was this go-kart advert, like this yogurt advert. Mm-hmm. And somehow everybody was recognizing him for that. And obviously he wants to do better in his career, but he's taken a job in the film industry and in a film. Also, it looks into his life of it looks into his relationships or his dating life. And, him hanging around with his friends. It's a very kind of, I would say, very modern look on relationships and the life of somebody in the city.
And I would say that because it's like you said, it's a modern show, it does give us more perspective because obviously he's a person of color and we've never really seen this kind of comedy from an ethnic origin, or maybe even a black guy. Maybe we've seen this kind of thing before, but never from the Indian perspective. So obviously we're seeing it from his perspective, and there's a bit of, he brings attention to the stigma of being Indian, being Asian, in his career, in his life, and in his relationships. And I think it's one of the highlights of the show. And I'm not saying that in a racist way. I'm just saying that they use that as a point to make the show work.
I have been saying this for so long. I remember talking about this in the Spill days when I was on the Spill podcast with Martin and Corey. I was talking about this. Unfortunately, that podcast had been lost in the ether.
Yeah.
But I was saying beforehand, there are plenty of Asians in America. How come there is not an Asian show or show with Indians or Pakistanis or any of the brown origin? And I kind of said that.
Yeah.
I never thought I would see something like this, and I'm glad I've seen something like this. It's last year has kind of pushed the boat out, pardon the pun, for comedies which are not predominantly white or predominantly black, has kind of more different ethnic minorities as the protagonist. Look at Fresh Off the Boat with Asians, with Chinese, Korean Asians.
Yeah.
Look at Masters of None, which is this one, with Indian Asians.
And as a black guy myself, I'm interested to see other ethnicities doing stuff, because I know this Oscar so white thing, but even as a black man, I always hear black. But there's other minorities that are being pigeonholed that are not getting spotlight as well. And I would love to see Spanish, Mexican, Chinese. It's cool. And you know what? I want to give a really big shout out to Netflix, because these guys, Netflix, are not only doing a lot of retro stuff, not only giving people a lot of power that we would feel like conventional American networks wouldn't do, but they take chances. And they gave this guy a lot of creative control. I even saw an interview with Aziz, and he was talking about how Netflix gave him a lot of creative control with the jokes, with the writing, and they just wanted him to be honest and express his thoughts on it. And that comes out amazingly through the show's run.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix is kicking it out of the park, to be honest, with the different shows and everything else, and their just creativity, lack of hands-on on the creativity side of it. It's great. It makes the shows feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Especially since this one, to me, is it's a short one. It's a short kind of 10 episodes. Like, the brevity is quite the season. The season has like brevity to it, so it's quite short. You can binge watch it quite easily. But it's just so funny, and it's so poignant as well. And it's not always going to be ha funny. It's kind of got the serious side to it.
Yeah.
In a way, to me, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, it reminds me of. I can definitely see its influence. Its influences are coming from Woody Allen of the 70s at least.
Oh yes. Yes.
You can easily see it's a Woody Allen. You can easily see that Aziz Ansari wants to be more Woody Allen-like. It also reminds me a little bit of Louis, but not in terms of the subject. Louis, another TV show from FX. It reminds me of that, but not as dark as the series of Louis is. Though it does deal with some kind of serious sides to the story.
Well, let's break it down to get into that, because what I want to do, just like we did with our other discussions, let's break it down into a few things. Now, I want to start with what works, what doesn't work, characters, stuff like that. So let me just say the things that make it work. And the reason why I'm going to bring this up first is because you brought up Woody Allen.
Yeah.
The main reason I'm bringing this up first is because the way the show is shot, the way the show actually looks, I don't know what kind of camera they're using, but this series, of all the TV series I've seen, even on Netflix shows, other Netflix shows, this is shot like a movie. I mean, it actually looks like they used a movie camera to the point where every episode starts off with an opening credit, which it opens like a movie. It opens like, every episode opens like a movie, which is weird.
It reminds me of watching a 70s movie, like a 1970s movie. Like, I'm sitting in a cinema, I'm watching, an art house cinema, and I'm seeing this TV show. That's what it reminds me of, and it's filmed beautifully. It's visually, it's beautiful. It's not stunning, but it's like visually, like, yeah, this reminds me of a movie. So
visually, I think to me it was actually more. It was seen more clearer than even an average TV show, and I'm not just talking about HD. I'm just saying, I don't know. Some things give. I don't know if it was the frames they shot on or if they panned it a little bit better, but this looked particularly different than any other TV show. I'm not overhyping this, guys. I'm just saying I noticed that it's shot in a distinctive way, that it looks more movie-like. And there's scenes. They're in New York in the series. Is that right? Yeah.
They're in New York, and it kind of. When I say it's Woody Allen-like, it kind of it's playing a like Woody like New York itself is a little bit of a character.
Yes,
it has that kind of
style.
The city's a character to it as well. So
yeah, and that's what I mean by the cinematography. It's shot that way, and it doesn't feel like a copy. It feels like a homage, and it's just, I thought it was great. It gave the show its own style. Another thing I like is, I'm just going through all my likes first, because I'll get to the things I don't like later.
Sure.
The cast is really good. The main character, Aziz, playing Dev, he's funny, he's charming, he's a little bit on the immature side, even for a 30-year-old. But
I call him the man child, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, he's the man child. I'll take it. He's very charming though.
But he's still cute. Another great thing, which we'll get into more detail in a minute, is a lot of special guests that are not super Hollywood stars, but they're definitely current TV actors. Like one of our favorites, who's a semi-reoccurring character, is H. John Benjamin.
Of course, H. John Benjamin has to be there.
I was surprised to see him on there, and he's like a semi-reoccurring character. He's in it for most episodes, but he has small parts here and there. And obviously, we've got other characters. I'll bring up the names later, but the cast on the whole are very good. The acting's very good. One of the main female love interests, Rachel, she's fantastic.
She's gorgeous.
And gorgeous. And, I just like the diversity in the show. It's, he's Asian, he's got a black friend who's a lady, who's lesbian. It's just it's well evenly done overall. And you know what? The show was short, but I'll go to you for your likes as well, because I'm going to go to the things I didn't like after this.
Okay. So obviously, the things I like is the diversity of it. The diversity, I mean, the amount of TV shows or sitcoms I see, which is based in New York, your Seinfelds, your Sex and the Cities, your Friends. They all have white guys. They're all white people at the end of the day. And I've got nothing against it. I mean, I love Seinfeld. You and me love Seinfeld. And
Yes.
I occasionally watch Friends. And I'm not a massive fan of Sex and the City, but it's not for me. But it's like watching this is like, yeah, this is New York. And like, New York is not like Omaha in Nebraska. It's not like the middle of nowhere. It is a multicultural city.
Yeah.
So yeah, you expect, people to be hang out, to be like of, different ethnic minorities at least. So this kind of, to me, captures the real New York City in a way, which is what I like. The characters I do love. I do like Aziz Ansari as the man-child of Dev. I do like Noelle Wells as Rachel, who's kind of a foil to Aziz Ansari. Still kind of played that foil, but still at the same time still was her own character. Still was her own self, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, played against each other. They were good with each other.
I disagree she was a foil, to be honest with you, because they were on the same level, but there was one episode in particular where they butt heads, but we'll get into that in a bit later.
Yeah. I was going to say, I know. Yeah. We'll talk about that a bit later. There were one or two characters which I was just like,
we'll get to dislikes in a minute, but is that all the things you like? Anything else you want to bring up there?
Those are all the things I like. I mean, I was going to talk about more about episodes, but I think we're going to be talking about
because we're going to get to the storyline and talk about the episodes. So the things I didn't like, honestly, there's only one thing I didn't like about the show, to be honest with you, is the comedy isn't consistent and what I mean by that is, coming into the show, I kind of felt like you compared it to another show. I can't remember what you compared it to.
I compared it to Louis.
Yes, you compare it to Louis, and Louis has a very consistent kind of dry, darkish comedy, where it kind of has a mixture of, it can be dry, it's never dark, but the comedy can be dry, can be kind of goofy, and in other times it can be completely silly. And what I mean by that is, there's one character in the show I do not like at all, that 100% do not like. It's I don't know if it's no, it's not his best friend, it's the tall white guy.
Yeah, Eric.
Yeah,
his name is Eric. Yeah,
he's completely ridiculous. He's just so far. There was one episode in particular. I have to bring this up. It was following a female character to buy a couch, and they went to buy this couch.
Yeah,
and then he needed her to come along, and he just went over the top. And I know it was meant to be funny, but he took this man-child thing to a level where it's like, even for this kind of gag, it should only be that 15 seconds. But he just went above and beyond. I'm like, there's no way that this should be going on this long, and it just wasn't funny.
I didn't mind him at all. Yeah, that scene itself was a bit like, what? You kind of just went like, is he kind of a bit, is he mentally okay? I mean, is there something wrong? I didn't mind it. I mean, even if you look at the beginning episode, there is one scene where Aziz Ansari and Eric is playing with this kind of like Stegosaurus doll thing.
Yeah.
And it kept on going. That kind of kept on going for a while. And I was just like, I hope this isn't going to carry on forever, because the joke's kind of like finished. It should have been finished ages ago.
The thing about Aziz is he sometimes bored that too goofy, but he always played more innocent. Like, he knew he was goofy. Sometimes he'd be like, oh, my bad, I know I'm being silly, it's just how I am. But this other guy, he just was so to be honest with you, there was just times he hit his peak. I'm talking about the tall white guy. He hit his peak, and I was just like, oh no, I can't. And then in general, just didn't like him. The other two characters, like his Asian best friend, he was generally funny. He was a bit, he's like a guy that's a bit of an arsehole, but he's generally funny.
I wouldn't call him an arsehole. I just thought he was kind of more neutral based. He was just kind of like, he was not neutral, but he was kind of like a bit arseholey.
Yeah.
And I can see where you're coming from that, but I saw him more as just, a good friend. Just, not the greatest of friends, but just a good friend, like a really good friend.
And unfortunately, not like this black lady. Obviously, like, oh yeah, you got a Tonka black character, which is funny, and she's a girl, and she's a lesbian. But unfortunately, she's playing that aggressive lesbian type. I'm
Thank
like,
you.
oh man,
Why
do that?
I also felt the same thing as well. I've got nothing against this. I got nothing against the character. I've got nothing against having a black lesbian character, or any lesbian characters, or any black characters. But I did feel like this lady, Lena Waithe, who's playing Denise. I did feel like she was playing it over ghetto, over gangster. Like, she's kind of like the wise ghetto lesbian, kind of, the magic Negro kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And I felt like, like I don't. It was just no. It was kind of rubbing me the wrong way. I was just
to be honest, not only that, man. It was very one dimensional. Like all the other characters, they would really you'll get insight into their lives. This girl would just come in, make all these quirky jokes, be a bit of a bitch, and just very aggressive lesbian. Now that can be funny for a little bit, but then that's all her character was, and I was just like, you know, it was a bit disappointing. But but you know, let me take the good. She was fine. Her acting was fine. She was actually funny, but I just thought they should just show more sides to her than just that one aggressive, wisecracking lesbian.
Exactly. What I didn't want from what I kind of felt that came out of this was everybody else apart from what's his name, Arnold, the big tall white guy.
Yeah.
Everybody else apart from Arnold and Denise doesn't have their backstories. Yeah. So I felt like with Denise it was kind of like, oh, she's kind of like the magic Negro lesbian girl. Let's get the advice from her. And I felt like that's kind of, you know, that was kind of like, was it needed? It's not really needed. You could have just easily, not saying not have her, but it's just like...
And she wasn't wise.
She was not wise.
She was an asshole. She was making some... Put it this way, I know guys were going on a bit of a ramble, but basically she was like, Aziz to ask her for a bit of advice, and then when it goes wrong, she's like, I fucking told you. What the fuck, man?
In a weird way, I like that. I mean...
It was funny. Don't get me wrong, it was funny. I like that.
There is one thing I do like, and I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
I love Aziz's family. Like Aziz's mum and dad.
We're gonna disagree there.
Oh no.
Because I do like them, but the dad is playing into it too much. And the funny thing is, I know that's his real parents. They're not actors. I understand that, but it's kind of like you invite your dad to meet your friends, and he's getting into it, and he just keeps on going. And there was a part where hey, it's cool you're getting into it. We know you're not a real actor, so it's kind of cute. But in this point, he just kept on going. I think there was one scene where he just kept on texting, making these jokes, just going on and on. It was cute. Don't get me, it was cute.
I think it's charming, to be honest. I think it's really charming. I'll tell you why it's charming for me, because I'm looking at it in terms of that could be my mum and dad. Like, that could be my mum and dad. Like, on TV, that could be my mum and dad. That could be something that I could see as my mum and dad. And so, in a way, to me, I find that really endearing to me. I find it really charming to me, because I'm just like, yeah, I have a mum and dad like that. I have a dad who, not as you know, Dev's parents, not at all, but, you know, you kind of look at those parents, and you're kind of like, they're having a part in this TV show. And you kind of sit there going, like, that could be like my mum and dad. That could be my mum and dad up there. So, to me, it was endearing. It was endearing, and I find it cute and endearing. And that's why
I tell you this, like, this little tidbit as well, because if anyone's listening, I think I'm just being an arsehole. Number one, like I said, he's not an actor. He's for real. I watched an interview of Aziz. Like, I think he was on, I can't remember, Jimmy Kimmel or something, and he was saying that his dad was getting so into it, even after the show was done, he was like, what am I going to do next? I need some more adverts. So he wasn't just playing into the role, he was actually getting that excited in real life. So, and to be honest with you, it didn't bother him. If I'm not putting it as a negative, it just you know, it just was like, okay. And he's not in it long enough to bother me overall. So it's a minor.
I think like the dad being so over energetic, but the mum is being so grounded and kind of a bit. She's got some acid wit to her as well, a bit of Seabrick wit, which I kind of liked. It was kind of like, yeah, she's not putting up with some of the enthusiastic shit that like the dad's doing, and I kind of like that. To me, I kind of like that. It was good to see that kind of thing for me. But then, as I said before, it's not many times I see and that whole Asian kind of contingent in a TV show. So you got to take what you got to get. That's what I got to say.
Well, now we're going to get into the meat of this whole show. We've done everything on the side. Let's get to the meat, which is the story and how the episodes are constructed. And before I get into that, I need to precursor this by saying, when I saw the trailer, before the show was on Netflix, before it came out, when I saw the trailer, the first thing I saw was the way Aziz presented this show. I thought to myself, this is a guy my age dealing with my problems. He's not just because he's Indian, but the way he talks and the way he's dealing with the relationship. I had expectations of this show dealing with things in a certain way. Now, watching the show and coming away from it, to my surprise, I actually got 90% of what I wanted, because Aziz as a character and being the main character taking us through his life in the episodes that he tackles certain things, it is done in exactly the way it was promised. And I have to say, this rarely happens. I actually thought, okay, the show was a little bit more goofy than I thought it was going to be, but the things it tackled on a serious level, with Aziz getting job roles, with Aziz dealing with racism, with Aziz dealing with his dating life, all of that was done in a serious way, not too over dramatic, but just in an honest way that I could relate to, because I'm the same age, we live in the same world, and I just came away, and I'll let you get into details in a minute, I just came away feeling, you know what, this show is so honest, so grounded in something I could relate to today, that this is what really makes me forgive all the negatives I have against it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. As I said, watching this TV show, I mean, I remember watching this, and then I kind of stopped watching it halfway through, and then I carried on watching it again. I just took a bit of a break. There are certain episodes which I sit there going like, that's groundbreaking for me, or that is kind of like, this is a takeaway episode or 2 episodes. And remember, this is a 10-episode series, and there's like 3 episodes I highly recommend. One of them is Parents. It's called Parents. Basically, it's about Aziz and Dev and his friend Brian, the Chinese Asian guy. They were discussing about their lives, and they're kind of dismissing their parents because their parents wanted them to do something, and they kind of realized it kind of shows a flashback to their parents' kind of childhood, how they had to struggle and had to survive and get back, had to struggle and survive and then come to America and then struggle and survive in America and get from there. And speaking as a first immigrant, basically somebody who's been born and brought up in Britain, coming from immigrant parents, that really touched me in a way that I couldn't comprehend. I just sat there going like, wow, that really struck a chord to me. That episode itself.
They did that well.
They did it so well. The other episode I really loved, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the episode's called Indians on TV.
Yes.
And it hits it off. It hits it for a home run.
That is one of the best episodes. It's kind of like required viewing, even for just a social commentary on racism. Just a social commentary, or you're doing a sociological kind of lesson about race on TV. Yeah. That episode itself is, to me, one of the stunning. Best. Yeah, it's a stunning episode, purely for the fact that yes, it deals with the plot is Dev is going for a role. And he runs into his friend called Ravi. Don't spoil too much, though. Don't spoil too much.
It's basically they're discussing how the roles that they're playing. Ravi is also another Asian. The roles that they're playing is really heavily stereotyped Asians and Indians, and I'm like, yes. And you do not, as somebody who is Asian, you do not understand how kind of offensive sometimes, or kind of just annoying that you see stereotypical kind of stereotypes of Asians.
Well, let me just say this, because I've heard people complain about that, but this episode shows you in brutal detail that something you might, that wasn't so bad, but he shows you, let me show you from my perspective. And when they show you clips from other movies, how people talk, it's so black and white, you can't deny it. It's shameful.
2 examples, like straight off the bat. Short Circuit, a white guy browning up and giving the most offensive, like stereotypical voice. That's one. And 2, I love the character. I love the character and everything else. And he's obviously well-rounded in the TV show. But The Simpsons, Apu, voiced by a white guy. And even though the character himself is great and he's well-rounded as well, there's still sometimes in the TV show of The Simpsons it does show a very stereotypical, aren't we laughing at the Indian kind of character and how different they are. It was those kind of things where watching this TV show was like, yes, that is totally true. That episode is totally showing how we Indian, me as an Indian, feels when watching these kind of TV shows and movies. So,
well, apart from that, because you deal with the social stuff, now let's get to the second half, which is another good core, dealing with romance and dating as a young 30-year-old. Now, go on.
So I was dealing with romance and also feminism as well. There was a feminism point as well, which I liked. I kind of liked, not the greatest, but I did like it nonetheless. So
I guess it was there only because of the because of the Rachel character, she deals with that. And I don't want to spoil it. There's a particularly good episode with her and Aziz where someone comes to see Aziz at a table, doesn't acknowledge her, and they get into an argument, which is really good, really done well. And, you know, the relationship stuff is done really, really, really well.
Yeah.
Aziz, sometimes his goofiness made it difficult for him, but at least he paid the price. And what I mean by that is, it kind of bothered me he was being immature, but then obviously Rachel would pick up on that and they'll have an argument. And by the end of the series, no spoiler, I'm not giving a spoiler.
Don't spoil it.
The way it ended, I was like, excellent. Like, first of all, realistic, number one. Number two, believable, adult, not overblown. And the series, it didn't end on a cliffhanger, but ended on a, we want to see where this goes in a very nice way.
Yeah.
And it's just well executed over the board. I could go on and on, but I just want to say, romance, comedy, drama, social commentary, this show delivered on exactly what, for 90% of what I thought it was going to be, it was. And for Aziz, the actor, to write, create, and for Netflix to give him the show, and you know, actually, let me make a little bit aside, because Aziz, if you guys don't know, this guy's even actually wrote a book called Modern Romance, where I'm probably going to do a discussion about this separately, where he goes into more detail. And it's actually not, I actually thought it was going to be a book about his relationships, but it isn't. It's a book about romance and dating and relationships in today's time, which is really fascinating. I'm going to make a separate video about that. But I just want to say, for what he's doing, he's very experienced, very intelligent, very down to earth. He's just very relatable. And the way he handled it in this series, although just a little bit goofy, just a little bit, that's, you said man-childish, it just comes off honest. That's the word that it honestly, it just rings off. This is an honest depiction of an honest guy in modern society, dealing with a lot of situations, and I really liked it. So I'm just going to summarize this, guys. If I had to give the show a rating, right now it's a high first class. It's done really, really well. And if you look on IMDb, it's at 8.7. So it's been really well received. And I want to hear your thoughts on that as well.
I'll give it a high first class as well. It's what it in terms of its topics, it's amazing. Characters are good. Yeah, there's some slight flaws, but I mean, they're slight flaws. They're nothing that'll stop everything. High first class on my end, totally.
I'm kind of nitpicky. Everyone knows I have to, but I wasn't just looking for errors. The goofiness did bother me a little bit, but overall, I got what I wanted, and this is very well received. It's already been greenlit for a season 2, which is coming later this year, 2016. Really looking forward to it, and you know, this is going to do well for I don't know how to. It's going to do well for more racial dramas, more people of color doing comedies, doing shows, and you know, it's such a hot topic in Hollywood right now. Netflix are really taking Hollywood by the balls, and they're just hitting win after win after win, and it's just great giving this young guy to create and write this as well.
They can't lose. I mean, Netflix right now cannot lose. They're on a winning streak, and Aziz Ansari, I don't know if you watched his show after Parks and Rec, which he was there beforehand. Yeah, he's hitting a home run on his own, and that's good enough. I'm quite happy with that.
So I already said this, guys. I'm going to be doing a discussion on his book, Modern Romance. Just look out for that. I'll put probably a YouTube card if I've already done it by the time this video comes up, but it's going to be out afterwards. But if you haven't checked out Masters of None, and most people already have, I give it a high recommendation. But I've heard some people argue they're not really into it, but you know, give it a chance. I also give it a chance. It's a good Netflix show, and you know, I just feel like Netflix, I know I'm just kissing Netflix's ass right now. I'm just saying that you're saying Netflix is just winning. It's because I feel like it feels like Netflix are a reflection of modern people.
Yeah,
they do things that's like that interest the norm. It doesn't feel like a studio. It actually feels like people who are open to new ideas, new concepts, not taking risks. And I don't, you know, even there's an episode in this show where he's talking about himself in that same racial episode. So, but anyway, let me just stop there. Let me stop rambling. I was very happy to see this. And now, with Netflix's help, we're getting the second season. Guys, check it out. If you've already seen it, leave a comment down below. If you hate it or you want to say something to disagree with anything we said, leave a comment down below and let us know, because I know we're kind of overpraised there. I honestly think the praise is justified. But again, it's just our opinion.
No, definitely. It's just our opinion. But I would love to hear your comments, your reviews of this show. So it'll be great.
And Mampers, I'm glad to have you on because you're a man of, you come from the same kind of heritage. So I was interested to get your perspective to see how they depicted this character. And you know, it sounds like you did kind of feel like he hit the points that you would want to make, and you feel like it was done well in your.
Yeah, no, I felt like he was hitting the points that I would have been hitting if I had the opportunity to hit it. So yeah, I think this is a show that reflects on Indian Asians very well, to be honest.
All right, well, guys, we said all we can say. Again, leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you want more content to YouTube feed, and you can also check out the annotations on the right there to all the other stuff we do for movies, TV shows, books, animation, what have you. But we want to say thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video, guys. Take care.
See ya.
Peace.